So you finally had enough of Windows. Every time you turn on your PC, something new shows up that you didn't ask for. Pop-up ads, random prompts to sign into OneDrive, updates that break things at the worst possible time, and now AI features showing up everywhere. Notepad, Paint, the taskbar, even your browser. It starts to feel less like your computer and more like something you're just renting from Microsoft. So you start thinking, maybe it's time for something else. That's when you discover Linux. At first it sounds simple. People say it's free, fast, and more private. But then you actually look into it and suddenly you're facing a wall of choices. Not just a few options, over 600 different versions. Ubuntu, Mint, Fedora, Arch, Zorin, Pop! OS, and many more you've probably never even heard of. And everyone online seems to be arguing about which one is best, like there's no correct answer at all. One person says go with Ubuntu. Another says Arch or nothing. Someone else tells you everything will break unless you pick the right one. It quickly goes from exciting to confusing. So what is all of this actually? All of these different versions are called Linux distributions, or distros for short. They're basically different versions of the same operating system, built in different ways for different types of people. Here's the simplest way to understand it. Linux itself is not a full operating system like Windows or macOS. It's the core part in the middle, called the kernel. Think of it like the engine of a car. It controls how your computer talks to the hardware, your CPU, memory, storage, and everything else. But an engine alone isn't a car. A Linux distro is what turns that engine into something you can actually use. It adds everything around it. A desktop you can click on, tools to install apps, system settings, updates, drivers, and all the basic software you expect from a computer. So instead of one official version of Linux, you get hundreds of different builds, each one putting the same core engine into a different style of car. Some are simple and beginner-friendly. Some are built for gaming. Some are made for people who like full control and don't mind getting technical. And that's where the real confusion starts, because each distro feels a little different, even though they all come from the same foundation. In this guide, we're going to break it down in a simple way. No complicated tech talk. No overwhelming lists. Just a clear look at which Linux options actually make sense depending on what kind of user you are. We'll start with the easiest ones. The distros made for people coming straight from Windows who just want their computer to work without stress. Let's start with the simplest group. The distros made for people leaving Windows who just want things to work. No setup headaches. No digging through settings. No confusing commands. Just install it and use it. First up is Linux Mint. If there's one distro that gets recommended over and over again for beginners, it's Mint. And there's a reason for that. It feels familiar right away. The layout is simple, the menu is easy to find, and you don't feel lost the moment you open it. It also comes ready to go. Things like video playback, drivers, and basic software support are already set up. You don't have to hunt for missing pieces just to watch a video or connect to Wi-Fi. Mint's main idea is simple. Don't make things hard for the user. It avoids unnecessary changes and keeps everything stable and predictable. That's why a lot of people call it the safe landing spot for anyone switching from Windows. If you're feeling overwhelmed and just want the easiest path forward, Mint is usually that answer. Next is Zorin OS. Zorin is very similar to Mint in that it's beginner-friendly, but it tries to go one step further in making the switch feel comfortable. When you install it, it actually lets you choose how the desktop looks. You can make it resemble Windows or even macOS. That might sound like a small thing, but it helps a lot. When everything looks familiar, your brain doesn't have to relearn how to use your own computer. It just feels natural from day one. Zorin also comes with a clean, modern design. It feels a bit more polished and stylish compared to many other beginner distros. There's a paid version with extra layouts and features, but most people will never need it. The free version already covers everything important. Now let's talk about the most well-known name in Linux, Ubuntu. Ubuntu is basically the default Linux for a huge part of the world. If Linux were a brand, Ubuntu would be the one most people recognize first. It has the biggest community, which matters more than you might think. If something goes wrong, chances are someone else already had the same problem and posted the solution online. So when you search for fixes, Ubuntu guides are usually the first thing you'll find. It also comes pre-installed on some laptops from companies like Dell and Lenovo, which shows how widely trusted it is. For beginners, Ubuntu is a very solid choice because help is always available. You're never really stuck for long. Finally, in this group is Pop_OS. Pop_OS is made by a company that actually builds Linux computers, so it's designed with real users in mind. It takes the power of Linux and wraps it in a clean, easy interface. It's a bit more advanced than Mint or Zorin, but still very beginner-friendly. Everything is organized neatly in settings menus instead of hidden behind complex commands. One of its biggest strengths is graphics support, especially for NVIDIA GPUs. That's important because on Linux, graphics drivers can sometimes be tricky, but Pop_OS makes that process much smoother. Think of it like this. Mint is simple, Zorin is familiar, Ubuntu is widely supported, and Pop_OS is clean and powerful without feeling complicated. Together, these four cover most people who are just trying to escape Windows and get a stable system. Next, we'll move into the gaming side of Linux and how it has become surprisingly good in recent years. Now let's talk about something that used to be a joke on Linux, but isn't anymore. Gaming. A few years ago, if someone said they gamed on Linux, people would laugh. You'd hear things like, good luck getting that to work, or why not just use Windows? But things have changed a lot. Today, Linux gaming is actually strong enough that some people switch just for that. A big reason for this is something called Proton, built by Valve, the company behind Steam. Proton is a compatibility system that lets many Windows games run on Linux without you doing anything complicated. You just click install and play, just like on Windows in most cases. Because of that, some Linux versions started focusing heavily on gaming. First is Bazzite. Bazzite is built for one clear purpose, gaming with as little setup as possible. It's designed to feel like a console-style system. You turn it on, and it's already ready for Steam, controllers, graphics drivers, and gaming tools. You don't need to go hunting for missing pieces or fixing settings for hours. It's also very stable in a special way. The core system is locked down, so it's hard to break. If something goes wrong, you can just roll back to a previous working version. That makes it feel safe, even if you're not technical. It even works well on handheld gaming devices like the Steam Deck, ROG Ally, and similar systems. In simple terms, Bazzite is for people who just want to game without turning setup into a project. Next is Nobara. Nobara is built by a developer who already worked on Fedora but wanted something more gaming focused. So instead of starting from scratch, he took Fedora and improved it specifically for gamers. That means things like Steam, game tools, drivers, and media support are already included. You don't have to install a bunch of extra stuff just to get your games running properly. It's also tuned to fix common Linux gaming problems out of the box, especially things related to performance and graphics. There are even different versions of Nobara depending on what kind of setup you have, including support for handheld gaming devices. Then we have a special case, SteamOS. If you own a Steam Deck, you're already using it. SteamOS is Linux, but heavily customized by Valve. It's designed to feel like a gaming console first and a computer second. When you boot it up, you land in a clean, controller-friendly interface made for launching games. But underneath that simple screen is a full Linux desktop. You can switch into it anytime if you want to browse files, install apps, or do more advanced tasks. Most Steam Deck users never even touch that desktop mode, and honestly, they don't need to. So what's the takeaway from all of this? Linux is no longer just for programmers or tech experts. Even gaming on it is now realistic, smooth, and in many cases plug and play. But there's still one category left, the people who don't want simplicity, they want control. That's where things get much more intense. Next up, the distros for power users and tinkerers who want to build their system exactly the way they like it. Now we get to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The people who don't just want a working computer, they want full control over it. No hidden settings. No, this is decided for you. No safety rails. Just raw control. This is where Arch Linux comes in. Arch is famous for one simple idea. You build everything yourself. When you install Arch, you don't get a full ready-to-use system like Windows or Ubuntu. You start with the basics and you choose every part of your system step by step. How it looks, what software it has, and how it behaves. That's why people say Arch is hard. Not because it's broken, but because it doesn't hold your hand. But the trade-off is huge. Once you set it up, you understand your system deeply. Nothing is random. Everything is exactly how you chose it. Arch is also a rolling release system, which means it never really has big version jumps. Instead, it keeps updating continuously, so you always have the latest software. Then there's the AUR, a massive community library where users share software that isn't always available in official stores. That means you can install almost anything. But sometimes you have to be careful, because not everything is equally tested. Arch also has something that almost everyone in Linux agrees on. Its wiki is one of the best help resources on the internet. If you're willing to read, you can solve almost any problem. But Arch is not for everyone. It's for people who enjoy building and fixing things, not just using them. Now here's the important part. Even though all these distros look very different, they have one surprising truth in common. For most people, the differences don't matter as much as they seem. Almost every major Linux distro can. Browse the web, run Office apps, play videos, run Steam games, handle everyday tasks without issues. The real differences are mostly about comfort, design, and how much control you want. Some distros hold your hand, some stay out of your way, some let you control everything. So if you're still stuck choosing, here's the simplest advice. If you want something easy, go with Linux Mint. If you want something polished, try Zorin OS. If you want something widely supported, choose Ubuntu. If you want a clean, balanced system, go with pop_OS. If you want gaming, try Bazzite or Nobara. If you want full control and don't mind learning, go with Arch. And here's the real secret, you're not locked in. One of the best things about Linux is that you can always switch later. Reinstalling takes minutes, not hours. There's no permanent decision. So instead of trying to find the perfect distro, just pick one and start. Because in the end, the best Linux version is the one you actually use.